G'day guys, how are you? We're back here for the second State of the Market chat. It was so popular the first time, and so I thought that, don't laugh, it was.
Oh,
it was. People liked it.
Loved it.
There was at least 8 views. So what we're here with today, Gully, you were involved in the first State of the Market, so we got him back and we got something interesting to have a chat about from his perspective very shortly. Byron, this is your first involvement in State of the Market. We're going to start with you because we like to blood our virgins. And for those of you who don't know me, Glenn Grantham, I apologise that clearly I have not been displayed enough on your screen, and I'll try even more. Byron Walker, welcome back into the real estate fold, residential, after being out of it for about 3 years, 2.5?
2.5.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Market's changed a little bit since you came back in, but you've had some really good success recently in what everybody is saying is a poor market. Tell us about what you've done differently with some of the stock that we've had.
Well, I guess the number one thing that I've done is probably be a bit more targeted in my approach. And by saying that, not necessarily hunting for the targeted buyer, but making the property appeal to who I think is out there.
To the buyer demographic.
That's right.
Yeah.
And homing on that a bit. Putting the right bait on the hook rather than worrying about where the fish is, so to speak. Now, an example of that would be the majority of the buyers out there. Not all, and I've certainly sold to some secondary home buyers. But the first home buyers are majority of the marketplace at the moment.
Yep.
Not necessarily all in new product.
No.
I am seeing that they are, I would suggest that those that are thinking a bit more about it are actually coming back to the established market.
Yep.
Now, that's where I'm doing my work. Okay. Now, one of the schemes, the $10,000 renovation grant, is something I'm tapping into. Now, simply put, if a vendor makes whatever change of improvements a vendor does, there is no assistance. However, the first home buyer can come in and update. I'll give you an example that's worked in a couple of instances. We got sample tiles and quotes and an older style unit. Here's your chance to modernise the unit. Now, so it happens, $10,000 will fully tile a 3-bedroom unit, townhouse, whatever. So you can then take that unit from being, a mediocre, older, established home to something with 600 by 600 tiles. Totally changes the whole thing.
To renovate and refurbished.
Yeah. So, that's being seen as an opportunity to update something. Again, if the vendor does it, they're imposing their desires, their style, if you like, on hopefully the next buyer. So, we're restricting who might like that kitchen. Or who
Are
might...
you saying not everybody loves pink? And I'm not talking about the singer, because we all love pink.
Yeah. And some people like Mission Brown.
That's right. Yeah.
It's not for me to decide what the next person likes.
Yeah.
Right. So I see that as an ideal opportunity for someone to do what they like, and they may, in some of these cases, I've got folk that have bought that were spending more than the 10, but they've got that 10.
Yeah.
And that's in many cases at this end of the market. And I guess let's be real. We're talking in most of the time in the first home buyer market sub 4. Okay, so probably that 300, that 2 to 4 brackets where
that's what the majority
of this is coming.
It's fair to say, in relation to that, in a quick snapshot, what you are doing is changing the property to be more appealing rather than changing the price to be more appealing. And so I've been banging on about this first and second tier market. I'm going to say at the moment that's an example of a first tier property being converted to a second tier. because we're not changing the price, but we're changing the people we're targeting by representing the property, okay, and making it more appealing. And I'll come back to that in a second. I'm going to use Gully here as an example of a perfect change from a first tier property to a second tier property in Darwin. I'm speaking particularly about the one we saw this morning in Bougainville. Tell us about that one.
So that's a nice little 2-bedroom, 1 bath, 1 car unit, great location in Nightcliff.
Mm-hmm.
It was on the market and settled earlier this year, and it was an average unit. You know, nothing special about it. It could do some updating. So the gentleman that bought it, he's gone through, he's freshened it up, he's painted, he's just done everything and done it well.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't cost him a fortune. He also did a whole heap of work on the grounds of the building.
Mm-hmm.
So just little things like removing a dead palm tree. And his partner loves gardening. So she's gotten in there and it just looks fantastic. So
Fair to say he also wasn't planning on leaving.
no, he wasn't.
Yeah.
So he was looking to stay there. He's a retired gentleman. And now his circumstances have changed and now he's looking to move down south. And
Time frame being 6 months.
6 months. That settled February this year. And we're looking to put it on the market at the moment. And the market is the same from when he bought it. But with the improvements...
Arguably in that sector, in the first tier sector of the market, which is where the property originally sat because it was poorly presented.
Yep.
It had a tenant in place.
Yep.
External, it had problems surrounding the body core.
Yep.
It had a lot of obstacles in place.
It
And
did.
this is what I talk about in first tier.
Yep.
It's now become second tier.
It is now second tier. There's going to be so many people looking for it. I've already got investors that have heard about it, and they were just like, "Yep, cool, let me get in there." And we took our whole team through this morning, as you know, and the numbers that we got back on it were between 10 and 15% more than what he paid for it in January.
Significant, and that's percentages are key because we are dealing in that sector of the market that you're talking about 200,000.
Yeah.
And percentage is the key. You know, that's what investors are always looking, or people are looking at the opportunity. Obviously, you wouldn't be looking to flip in this market, but to be in a marketplace where you can see the discernible difference between tier 1 and tier 2 sales is 10 to 15% and more.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Now, I'll come to my theory. I've used these two as examples, loosely told you what it's all about, and this is what I've been banging on about: tier 1 and tier 2 of the market. Tier 1 of the market is mortgagee sale, mortgage stress, non-financial based or financial driven sale. And what I'm talking about there is owners who are looking, who for the last year, 2 years, sometimes longer, have had no money to spend on the maintenance and upkeep of their property, regardless of whether they are investment properties or whether they're owner-occupier, and this is mortgage stress. And this probably is around about 20 to 40% of the marketplace out there at the moment. Not saying they're mortgagee sales, but they're mortgage stress. People haven't had the funds to inject into their property to upkeep them and maintain them. Now, these properties fall into first tier. In a lot of instances, they're rented out as well, so they have a tenant in place, which is an obstacle because there aren't a huge amount of investors in our marketplace right now. And most of the people, as Byron indicated, that the buyers are first home buyers, and first home buyers have to move into the property.
Yep.
So if there's a tenant in place, hurdle, now you put another reason why people can't buy it, as well as the fact that it's poorly maintained, poorly presented. And there are obviously other things surrounding that. It could be in a bad complex with high levies. It could be in any of these things at the moment. They're all obstacles in place to a first home buyer purchaser. That's a first tier sale. A second tier sale is a property that is within the first home buyer marketplace in established homes, which they can buy up to
about 650,000.
650 grand. So under $650,000. They get all the initiatives of a first home buyer. They get the opportunity to utilise the renovation grant, as Byron said, so that they can buy from $200,000 through to $650,000. They're owner-occupied or vacant, well-presented properties. The owners have actually maintained, they're not in mortgage stress, so they've had the opportunity to present. Usually, like one that we saw today, they are actually styled and they have furniture in there, etc. And these properties are the ones that fit into the second tier. Okay, it happens that they're probably under 650 because that's where most of your buyers are, first home buyers, because that's where most of our market is. And what we're seeing with those properties is we are seeing demand for those.
Definitely.
And the reason behind that is because If you're a first home buyer and you're going out there and you're borrowing funds, 9 times out of 10 you're borrowing 90 to 95%. So you go out there and you find one of these first tier sales that's mortgage stressed that needs $100,000 spent on it. You go out there and you borrow 95% on it, let's say it's $400,000, you go out there and borrow 95% on it because that's the only deposit you got. You get in there with all these plans of doing all the works, etc., that you're going to do on there, and what's the first thing you find? You've got no money. Because you're a first home buyer. You haven't got any money. Whereas the second tier becomes more appealing to the first home buyer because they can go and borrow an extra $100,000 on it because it's done, move in, get their finance because it stacks up to valuation, and then they go, oh, I'll spend that money on dirt. I don't have to. It's already done.
I can put a pool in now.
It's already done. Yeah, somewhere down the track, I'll whack in a pool or I'll do whatever. And so what you've got is you've got this situation where they are more appealing to first home buyers. That's second tier. And that's where we've had some massive success recently. Like property I was talking about, 42 Wilmot. If that was property down the road from that, 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, poorly presented, need maintenance, all that sort of stuff, sold for $370,000. 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, up the road, beautifully presented, owner-occupier, available for vacant possession, $465. 2 doors apart.
That's it.
That's second tier. The first one's first tier. That's where you want to be. Byron's getting people properties up to that level to be second tier. Gully's instance there, and the other one in Bakewell today, second tier.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're having results in that.
That's it.
I'll give you an example. I think now this was a 4-bedroom, 5-year-old home, good condition, in Palmerston. Now, this is an example of, I guess, recognising value in the second tier and walking away from the incentive to buy new.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think this is a very the incentive can disrupt people because it takes their focus away from value. Now, in this case, the home was a good quality 4-bedroom, ground level home with no extra improvements. I won't mention where it is. We're all familiar with it. Now, $500,000 was the figure. A good price by all counts on the buy. Now, in the course of that, it became apparent that about $30,000 to add a pool.
Yep.
Now, when it went through the finances would only add 10.
Yeah.
So that property was a first tier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's competing with second tier.
Yeah.
Right. So what people have to understand is and it's the same with buying a new car. Choice costs you money.
Yep.
So the choice of choosing the pool, right, is costing you $20,000 because you can go and buy someone else's second tier property with the pool, with the shed,
And pay 10.
pay 10.
Exactly.
Okay, so guys, it's time to stop, chasing dreams and look at what you're getting because the second tier market, use whatever words you like. You've chosen the tiers.
Because I just wanted to make something up.
Yep. I've used, obstacles.
Yeah.
And that I guess to something that we've all grown up with, or I have. I guess the first tier market that you're referring to is one that I would have referred to in the past. Renovate and prosper.
Yeah, that's right.
However, we're in a marketplace where, to be quite frank, I would think you'll profit more by buying something that's already got it done
Yeah,
than doing it.
Yeah.
Okay?
For
So,
sure.
There's a lot less stress involved as well. It's quite often this. I've had several vendors that have bought that first tier property and thought, yep, cool. We can spend 30 grand and get it up to where we want. And I've gone back to see them 6 months later. They've spent 40 grand and it looks almost the same because they just didn't understand the cost, the time, those extra things that come up that you don't.
Or their own
anticipate.
abilities. Their own abilities. People when they go through and they look at these think, oh yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
But by I'll do that means I'll get somebody in to do that. and they charge $100 an hour.
Exactly.
You know, like they don't do it for free.
Exactly right.
And so you'll get the pieces of your kitchen for $3,000, but it might cost you $6,000 to get it put in.
Well,
that's
and
what
see,
you got to remember.
Yeah.
I'll give you, this is another example that I think it's applicable to both the first and the second tier. But you're simply put, when someone goes and buys a new home, okay, my time in the new home market was I learned a lot.
Yep.
You go buy a new home, then you are paying for the landscaping. You're paying for the reticulation.
Yep.
You're paying for everything because that's a requirement of lending the money. Okay? So you go and buy an established home off Adam, don't care where it is, established home, then the landscaping is irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's included.
Exactly.
So you don't have these specific requirements that are being laid down. So, I can remember when I bought my first property, I didn't get the grant. It wasn't around.
There wasn't electricity either.
No, that's right. But we won't worry too much about that. But the fact is, I guess we used to buy and you use your cuttings on the lawn, you do this and you do that because you could.
Yeah.
Now, you don't buy a new house that way anymore.
No.
It doesn't happen.
It's got roll down instant
Yeah.
turf.
Yeah,
It's got
that's
all that sort of stuff.
Instinct
So
does.
Yeah.
one could argue that a lot of the assistance incentive is getting lost in things that you could do. So don't, look at the older home. You're not going to have, you've got the garden for nothing, you've got the reticulation, you've got the footpaths and all those things that people forget about when they build a home. Well, that's the home, but there's a lot more that goes with it. So.
We're going to have to wrap it, guys, because we want to retain some intellectual property so that these guys have to ring us and get us to assist them with the sale. You want to exist in the second tier of the market, which obviously everybody wants to if they're going to sell.
Definitely.
Make sure that you're giving us a call and we'll tell you how to get there. Talk to you soon, guys.
Thanks, guys.